What's good, everybody? Welcome to another broadcast here, Fast Break here for iSports Radio. You're for always sports. On tonight's show, we'll discuss if the NBA has a tanking problem. Plus, college basketball had a heavy weekend. We'll discuss the scores and matchup, and also discuss the community's top 16 team. D-Locke, what you think all about the tanking in the NBA, supposedly?
I mean, it's definitely something that we've seen a lot of NBA teams doing. I mean, you got some good talent out there. You know, we obviously talk about multiple players, Davidson, a few others. This NBA draft is loaded, and teams are trying to get ready for it. So, but there could be some repercussions for doing something like that. So we definitely going to see what happens moving forward.
So yeah, lots to talk about, lots to get into. When we talk about college basketball weekend and kind of ties in with the tanking we're about to dive into after these few messages, it'll make a lot of sense why some of these teams are taken. But we'll discuss that much more here on Fast Break here for iSports Radio. You're for always sports, and we'll catch you on the other side after these messages.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clinking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. iSports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, There's no telling how far you'll go.
Well, that's too damn big. Anyways, welcome to the show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in with us here on Never Broadcast here for Fast Break for Ice Sports Radio. You're for all sports. Now, I'm leaving this little ticker right here because I want to get this message out. The Bottle Apparel brand, great brand that helps us here at Ice Sports Radio. And then I kind of want to keep this up because, you know, if you use the code IESR to get 15% off from their website, some of those funds go to mental health research, you know, support, all that counsel, all that stuff. The reason I bring that up, you know, unfortunately, the tragic news over the yesterday, Rondell Moore, former receiver, used to play at Purdue, played for I believe the Arizona Cardinals, the Vikings. I could be missing the team there, but sadly he passed away. Some may say, you know, self-inflicted, but he passed away. And you know, you see a lot of, you know, players in the NFL you know, saying, hey, a lot of y'all don't know that we go through issues, all that stuff, you know, from the daily. You know,
Right.
if we present our issues to our coaches, front office folks, whatever, we get looked at funny, and then it sets a clock on us how long we stay within that organization, or even grander, the league. So, yeah, this may be an advertisement for apparel, but it goes deeper than that. And, you know, we want to put that out there, you know, to kind of get that message out there. Say, hey, you know, anything helps. If it goes to fund, help mental health research, please do it. And if you got to talk to somebody, talk to somebody.
Right.
So, you know, condolences to Rondell Moore and his family. You know, hopefully they'll, you know, fight through this journey, and we hope bringing more awareness to the mental health, you know, of these athletes that kind of get shunned, you know, just right out the gate. So, got that right there. D-Lock, I know you weren't on the show last week due to travel, all that. Real quick, what are your thoughts on the All-Star weekend and the time you kind of caught it and whatnot?
I don't think it was bad. I think, you know, one of the most impressive things was seeing Dame come back and win the 3-point contest. That was very impressive. Slam dunk contest was solid. Just wasn't no huge names that we're usually seeing.
Yeah.
Overall, it was pretty solid. It happened very fast, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Anthony Edwards is literally showing what he's going to be for this franchise, this sport moving forward for this league. So for me, it just went by so quick. But you know, I definitely like, you know, the good things that we did get out of the All-Star weekend, and it was. I think it could have got more views, but you know, I think we're starting to see that this league is in good hands with some very good young players. That's the big thing that we see. These young guys, Ant-Man, SGA, LaMelo, the rest of these guys, they're going to be very good players for this league for a long time, and they're going to take care of this league moving forward. We all know that LeBron time is coming to an end soon. Just like we said about Kobe, like we said about Jordan, Shaq, and all these other guys. There is somebody that needs to take heed, you know, take over this league. You got your guys like Luka, you got, you know, Anthony Edwards, you got Victor. You got a lot of good guys that is gonna keep this league with the attention that it deserves. So for me, it was a hell of a weekend. Obviously different than what we're usually, you know, used to, for what we've seen for years and years ago. All-Stars changing, not only for basketball, but for other sports. But I think it was very productive. It's good to see that we got some good players that's going to hold this league down for years and years to come.
I said on last week's show, I said, the format I liked, we got a lot of new faces. You had Edwards, like you brought up, just really just kind of really just, having some pride and talking crap and all that stuff. About the world players, all that stuff. And, it didn't help that Luka and Jokic didn't play much because, the injuries that predated the All-Star weekend, all that good stuff. So that didn't help matters. It was kind of weird having kind of like an afternoon, all this stuff, the whole weekend just about, because the Olympic coverage, all that. So that kind of didn't help things. And they also talked about, another thing that's kind of what we talked about throughout the weekends, like, not having enough people in the seats and stuff like that. Now, I said one thing they could do, what they should have done, and what the Clippers did, promoting All-Star Weekend, they went around the neighborhood and stuff like that. And some of y'all watching that went around the neighborhood, bringing basketball goals to folks, promoting All-Star Weekend, all good stuff. And I said during the show, like, especially on Fridays during the rookie game, all this stuff. No Boys and Girls Club around the area. Big brothers, big sisters, something like that, whatever. Little girl groups, young women groups. You can give them some tickets for them and their families. Bus them to fill the arena up, because a lot of those kids and folks don't and being priced out of these games and whatnot. Give them that experience, fill it up, and you probably got some new fans. For just not for the NBA, but hey, for example, Continental, if some kid kind of like Continental, you got a fan for Continental for the rest of his career.
Right.
BJ Edgecombe. Ace Bailey, whoever you want to throw in there. So I just thinking a missed opportunity to kind of still have grown-ass folks in that little fan section they got into a dome. Could have put some kids there to kind of bring that experience up and whatnot. Kind of like they used to back in the day.
Right.
I think it's a missed opportunity that the league and the Clippers can't take advantage of the empty seats and kind of really fill it up and kind of bring some, I don't say awareness, but it's more liveness to it, more authenticity to it. So, Saturday kind of same thing. The audio with the Luda concert, that was just bad and janky. You couldn't even hear him. The arena probably heard it, but TV, it was bad.
Yeah.
Jalen Brunson, when they come out for the shooting stars, he said, "I don't want to be here." Stuff like that don't help things.
No.
Shout out to Allen Houston, Corey McGaddy, kind of doing their thing and whatnot. The dunk contest, it was what it was. I said it. Shout out to the kid that won it from Miami. All that dancing, he wanted. So thank God he did that.
Yeah, he danced every chance he got.
He sure did. Damn, dude. Thank God you won. So next year you won't be doing this extra shit. But anyways. And then three-point contest, I was curious to see how Dame's going to do. And he did pretty well.
Yeah.
And with Portland, kind of like a fringe playoff team. Him back in the fold. If Scoot Henderson can stay healthy. Donovan Cleveland, the Israeli kid, may have something cooking. Some of the other young guys as well. in the fold. So, the game, it was what it was. It was solid. I liked it. I couldn't complain too much. I thought the world team, with them, I thought they were going to win, but it didn't really happen, and they got swept out. And then they had the size and length, all that stuff. And I know SGA didn't play either, so but still, just a solid weekend, but just kind of circumstances put in the afternoon that kind of took the buzz off of it, in my opinion, due to the Olympics, all that stuff, and all that good change. I'll get the last word.
I mean, I think I think it was a very good All-Star, and it's different than what we've been used to. We've seen Blake Griffin, Dwight Howard, Eric Gordon, Zach LaVine. We've seen those stars in the slam dunk competition. And those were the names that were talked about heading into the slam dunk competition. You really didn't see too much of that heading to this slam dunk contest. So it was a little different. But like he said, with Brunson saying he didn't want to be there, it kind of threw off a little bit. But the NBA is the NBA. Like I said, I think the good thing is you do have those young players, and you continue to have those young players that should continue to carry the league. We talked about obviously LeBron being one of the players that's been at the All-Star so many years, but now being an All-Star that's not starting is something that we know is beginning of the end. You know what I mean? So, but also with that, we've known LeBron to be the guy, the face of the NBA for so long. Now you want to see who that next NBA player is going to be. Now, like I said, you do got Luka, you got Jokic, you got Giannis still here, you got Ant-Man who's coming along, SGA. So the league is in good hands. It's just how it's moving, Victor. So we have the players that's going to take over. And then we're seeing a big turn in this league. Like, for a little glimpse of time, we see the Spurs weren't that good. And now they're starting to come along, So that shows us that person that could be the face of the NBA is playing a huge part. Another person, too, shout out to Tyrese Maxey. He's having a hell of a season. You know what I mean? Like, he's playing extremely well, too. When we talk about the face of the NBA, these are the players that are aligned that could be part of this. So, to me, I think that it was a weekend that was needed. LaMelo Ball, Concanupple, Brandon Miller, Charlotte's playing pretty well. They're trying to get in the thick of things. They're trying to play extremely well moving forward. Now you're starting to see teams starting to put it together with the young pieces that they have. And that also means that now you have other players that could get into that conversation of the face of the NBA. So I think it's a good thing. But I'm actually ready for us to be back in regular season, which is where we are now.
Yeah, so right now, as we speak, we got the Lakers and Celtics in primetime on NBC. The two most storied teams in the league going at it, with the Celtics up by 13 at the moment, and missed shot by Jaylen Brown before the half, and a half-court heave by Austin Reeves is a no-go. So 84-71 right now for the Lakers going into the fourth quarter. It's mostly been all Celtics right now.
Mm-hmm.
And in celebration of Pat Riley getting his statue outside of Crypto Arena and all that as well. So once that game's in, we'll talk about that and all that good stuff and see what those two teams will be looking like at the second half of the year. But in talking about second half of the year, D-Lock, the main topic of tonight's show, and going to tie in when we talk about college basketball later on the show, does the NBA have a tanking problem? Let me ask you, just kind of start off, do you think the league has a tanking problem in your eyes?
I mean, very hard to see a lot of times, with some of these teams because they're being very competitive. Like if I remember, I think it was the Kings and the Spurs yesterday. I think they had a spread being like 18.5 or something. But the Kings right now are playing their ass off, right? For those that look at spreads, I probably would suggest that, the Kings are one of the teams that play super duper tough.
Mm-hmm.
So they, supposed to lose by 18 or 20 or double digits or whatever. They find a way to be competitive. And I say that to say tanking could possibly be a problem. It's just that these teams are being very competitive through third quarter or early fourth quarter, and it makes you question, what are the Utah Jazz doing? What are the Sacramento Kings doing? What are these teams at the bottom? What are they doing? What are the Wizards doing? So for me, and then what makes it I think even more obvious is the starting lineup that they come out with. They're starting players that probably have not scratched the basketball court in a long time, right? So they're letting it known, like, Memphis, Utah, Sacramento, these teams could be tanking, and it could be super obvious. So that's what made it interesting for me. And we talked about it before the trade deadline. We were trying to figure out what teams are going to make the mass trades that's going to help the contending teams. But Russ did get moved, right? DeRozan did get moved. Zach LaVine did get moved. These are the guys that we were expecting to get moved to a contending team, and it didn't happen. So to me, it's very, very interesting to see how these teams are trying to maneuver. I think there is a tanking problem there. It's just being done very strategic. Because again, these teams are showing that they're competitive until 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And then all of a sudden, now they're pulling guys. Or, now they just look like they're not as engaged to get some of these wins. So, in my opinion, you got to look at the teams like Sacramento, the Pelicans, prime example, Utah. We just got the news about Kyrie not playing for the rest of the season, which we probably kind of expected. Now we're looking at Cooper Flag being out. Are they they're 20 and 36. What are they expecting? Are they trying to get in the playoffs, or are they trying to go and get one of these lottery picks? So for me, those are a couple of teams that you want to kind of pay attention to. Obviously, Brooklyn, Washington I talked about. Could throw Indiana up in there because I think Siakam just came back. He was out for a couple games after the All-Star weekend. Now he's back. So what is going on with them as well? But you got the teams that are sitting back and saying, "Hey, we want to see what this draft is going to hold if we can tank and get a top pick." And I think there's only a few teams that's doing that.
For the basis of this, does the NBA have a tanking problem? Yes and no. Like, yeah, they do, but certain circumstances that we've seen happen for the past, since its inception of it, make you kind of decide out of it, We can talk about the first one when they introduced it. New York Knicks get number 1 overall, and there's conspiracies about, David Stern rigging that to get the New York draft Patrick Ewing. So from the jump, since you started this draft lottery process, there's always been questions about it. Do you want certain players here and there, all that good stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And you got it, especially here, this past decade or so, this past draft, you mentioned about Cooper Flag. Dallas had like a very low odds to get the number 1 pick. Now, we saw the Luka trade happen. Everybody in Dallas is up in arms. The front office didn't know. The ownership didn't know, blah, blah, blah. And then next thing you know, they turn around, didn't make the playoffs, turn around and get the number one overall pick to select Cooper Flag for the future.
Right.
Looks very suspect.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Anthony Davis draft, which was, I think, 20. Let me pull that up. $2012. If y'all remember, that's the lockout year. And guess who like really sucked ass that year? The Charlotte Bobcats. I think they only won like 7 games out of that season.
Yeah.
And they got the number 2 pick. And guess who got number 1? And guess who happened to buy the New Orleans Hornets at the time before they changed the name to Pelicans? The Benson family out of New Orleans, who also own the Saints.
Mm.
And some of y'all don't remember, the league owned the Hornets for a good while. And the more infamous thing that happened, you know, the Chris Paul veto trade to the Lakers,
Yes.
all that good stuff.
Yep.
And once the Benson family bought the franchise, look what happened with them. They got to get to Anthony Davis. Allegedly. You know, we can talk about LeBron when he left the first time for Cleveland, and how Cleveland got all those first number 1 overall picks. Kyrie, Anthony Bennett, Andrew Wiggins, Tristan Thompson. I think he was 4th overall pick. And he used Wiggins to get Kevin Love to kind of springboard, you know, that next run in Cleveland. So, I mean, I can't say that the league has a tanker problem where you got these coincidences that comes up.
That happens, yes.
That has major influence. We can stay in New Orleans. Anthony Davis got tired of being in New Orleans, made the trade to the Lakers, and then you know they get awarded Zion when the Knicks had a good chance of getting them. Now, we see how that has been going with Zion. It ain't been the best. Brian Fancione brought up they definitely do have a taking problem, especially the smaller market teams. Do they though? Like before the season started, ladies and gentlemen, we do our season preview series of each conference.
Every year.
When we both did ours, I put it in the bottom. I put these teams in the bottom. I had the Wizards. I had the Hornets. Who else? The Nets.
Yeah.
Kings. Like we had some of these teams already taken down the bottom.
Yeah. Expecting
them. Because they've been asked for a good long time. And yeah, some of these teams, they may tank, but hell, at some point, I mean, if you take it for like 5 years and beyond, you ass. I hate to put it like that. The Wizards been asked for a very long time. When the last time the Wizards make the playoffs?
It's been a minute.
Like when Russ was there?
Yeah. That probably was a play in.
And looking at the draft lottery they've been drafting at for the past several years, kind of like that middle. The only time they got that high draft pick was 2 years ago when they drafted Alex Sarr.
Right.
And in this past draft, they got the 6th pick, I believe. Well, they got a couple picks in the lottery, and it took the kid from Texas, and I believe somebody else. But some of these things just been ass for multiple reasons. Could be front office, ownership, the guys they drafted, coaching plays a factor in developing these guys. So it's hard to say because, some of these things, how long are they going to be in the gutter? I mean, how long can they stay in the gutter?
Yeah. How long are they going to stay down there, especially with some of these trades that they've made, these moves that they made?
Like at the deadline, I didn't blame the Wizards doing what they did at the deadline, getting Trae Young and Anthony Davis, because like if the odds don't fall in our favor, okay, we're tired of dealing with this. Might well just like do something for the short term and then maybe come back around this later on. I don't blame the Wizards. I said that last week. I don't blame the Wizards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Wizards ain't not like a small market team. DC's not like a small market, but how many picks they had in the lottery and stuff like that and really didn't hit. Some teams don't get lucky as Boston, like getting Tatum and Jaylen Brown.
Oh, nah.
As a 3rd overall pick.
Very rare to get that.
Philly got lucky that Embiid and they got Ben Simmons to work out.
Yes.
And they hit on let me pull up. Let's see. And they hit on Tyrese Maxey. Try to pull it up real quick. And they hit on Dentarius Maxey on the 21st pick back in 2020. Very lucky with that. And Marcus just have the eyes right there. But it's all about like who you have in the front office, who you have in your scouting department, and you got coaching.
Mm-hmm. Who put you in positions for that?
And then also you got to remember, D-Locke, you got a lot of younger guys coming to the league, so these things going to develop in time, stuff like that. Not every guy's going to come in and be like LeBron in that first season, have a hell of a season, or come out on Anthony, Al Iverson, Shaquille O'Neal.
Which is what they want, but like you said, it's not going to happen with every first pick. That's just Victor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's not going to be something that happens every first round or number 1 overall pick. It's just not.
Like for every LeBron, you get a Markelle Fultz.
Yes.
You get an Anthony Bennett.
Yes.
Andrew Wiggins been a solid pro. And I'll be honest, I thought he'd be one of those transcendent players who will be top of the league for years. Didn't really materialize like that. And that's okay. Solid role player, got a championship ring, has made a lot of money in this league. Nothing wrong with that. But I think, like you do too, everybody trying to get that top pick, look for the next generational type of guy. And you got to remember, sometimes that don't happen.
No. It's not going to, there's plenty of drafts that we've seen that shows a hell of a lot of talented athletes. I mean, I think this is not the first draft. We've seen multiple drafts where we're like, okay, this draft right here just looks talented from top to bottom. You know what I mean? We talk about the Zion draft. You know what I mean? We seen picks up in there. We was like, damn, okay, this is going to be a hell of a draft. And it looks like it's going to be something that could possibly change a lot of franchises.
Yep.
You know, we're looking at now DeBosta, Peterson from Kansas. You know, Bulls are obviously, you know, Caleb Wilson, UNC, the kid from Tennessee. These are just a few names that I'm throwing out there. You got some talent, but I think now that I'm kind of on the coaching end a little bit, I think it goes hand in hand, right? You got the talent. The person has to be talented. They got to want to work hard. But also on the coaching end, in the front office, they got to put that athlete or that player in the right position to be successful. And I think that's where some of these franchises mess up, to be honest. We look at Jamarcus Russell back with the Oakland Raiders back then, number one pick. Talented guy. I think he was a little overhyped in my opinion, because he just had a hell of a season that year. He was throwing the ball all over the place, and he was 6'5", 6'7", 6'6", like something like that. But the Raiders franchise was not set to put him in the right position.
No.
Yeah. We look at Anthony Bennett. Anthony Bennett was a talented player, but he got in a position where was it just the talent and the franchise? These situations go hand in hand. So, yes, teams can tank, and they can say, "Hey, well, we want to get Carlos Boozer, or we want to get Cameron Boozer with number one pick, X, Y, and Z."
Yeah.
But if you're not putting him in the right position to be successful, don't matter. This is why Victor is a perfect match for the San Antonio Spurs, because we know what the Spurs do. We know the background. We know their expectation for years. We know how they do their players. So you get somebody like Victor, that's a perfect match. So the success that he's having is not a surprise, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
This is what the Spurs have been doing for years, you know. So, and this starts with the front office. So they can tank, yes. You talking tank. Sacramento can tank. You know, Washington can tank. But you have to, okay, you get that player, but you got to put them in the right position to be successful. I probably say maybe one player I can name right now that he was just who he was, is LeBron James, right? You probably could take him at any franchise, and he was probably going to turn some heads. That's what it is. And then he just said, "Well, hey, I did my job here in Cleveland. We went against the San Antonio Spurs. There's a high chance I'm not going to win a championship here. I need to go somewhere and get some more help." So now he kind of determined his destiny with that, if you will. So, if they're going to tank, cool. It's a problem that's going to happen. But the problem also is, what are they doing to put who they draft in the right position to be successful? I think one thing that's been, I wouldn't say shocking, but he's doing a hell of a lot of work, and maybe he's in a really good position, really, is Anthony Edwards.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, I didn't think that Minnesota would be this team now with him. In my mind, I'm like, okay, but Ant-Man is who he was, out of Georgia. This kid's talented. You know, he's going to be good for the NBA. But Minnesota, we know how they, kind of do things. That's not a franchise that kind of puts players around their key players. But this time they did. They start putting pieces around him. And now this Minnesota Timberwolves team is one of the better teams in the West. Yeah. So I think tanking is an issue. It's what are these teams going to do to be successful when they do make that draft pick? Because mean, I'm watching this kid, the Boston, and I think he's really good, in my opinion. I don't think that this is a show. I don't think this is a player that is just being good because he's at BYU or like that. I think he's really good. Now, where does he land is the question, and how do they build around him? One person we always talk about is Zion. We always say, well, hell, at this time, it's time for new scenery. A lot of times we say that because for some reason, it just has not worked. I think it's both, right? I think it's Zion, and I think it's also the front office. It's a combination. So to me, these teams do tank, but what are they going to do when they do get these key players? How are they going to build around them? And we see this in all sports. New York Yankees, the Green Bay Packers, the Dallas Cowboys, the Los Angeles Lakers, the New York Knicks. These teams that are known to be successful, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they get their players in draft or however they put their team together, and they mold them and they put them in the right position. So that's my biggest thing is, like you said, we've seen some of these teams be trashed. The Wizards, we've seen them be sorry for a long time. There was a point they had Russ, and who else they had over there with Russ? I had a couple guys with Russ. So now, you had some players come through there that can be help your franchise, but it doesn't work. Sacramento Kings, you got Russ, you got Zach LaVine, you got DeRozan, you got Sabonis. That's a hell of a lot of talent, in my opinion, but it's not working. Why is that? So it's something that you can tank all day. But if you get that piece, you don't know what to do with it, it was for nothing.
And, you brought up Sacramento. Like, the injuries this year didn't help things with the squad. They probably prematurely got rid of Mike Brown too early.
Mm-hmm.
For being real, we talked about it here on the show. Then Doug Christie, is he the right fit for the future of this franchise? I really can't say. But then you kind of factor into the drafting over the past years and stuff like that, and some of these guys they have whiffed on. Let's see. Let's see. Let me pull those guys up. Basketball Reference, great, awesome tool. So, their last few picks in the NBA draft, the Sacramento Kings I'm talking about. Last year, they had a second-round pick, Maxime Reynard, who's been starting for them at center. Here, ladies, let's a bonus out. 2024, Devin Carter out of Providence. Jamal Shead, who they took in the second round, but has been traded to the Toronto Raptors, and who's been starting in and out the lineup for Toronto for this season. So second round talent you found, you traded, and who's been starting over there in Toronto, been playing pretty decent as well. A nice role player you could have right now. And Devin Carter's been getting DNPs for a whole bunch this year. Then 2023, Jordan Walsh, who you traded to the Celtics, who's been getting decent time now with the Celtics now, and Auburn Maxine Prosper, who you traded to Dallas. Keegan Murray, the year before, 2022, who's been okay. Davion Mitchell, the year before that, not there. And Tyrese Halliburton in 2020, who was there, was pretty solid. And you traded him away to Indiana Pacers for Sabonis.
Mm.
And now Halliburton has kind of really uplifted that franchise along with other pieces, and was damn near one game away to win the NBA championship last season, if he didn't tear his Achilles. We will never know how that game would shake out if he didn't tear his Achilles.
Right.
This close. So, for say the Kings are tanking, they were ass.
Yeah.
The roster makeup is ass. The coaching's been ass. The ownership, I think the main thing is the ownership, because the ownership sucks.
Mm-hmm.
So, does the NBA have a taking problem? Possibly, but it's just like all these factors we bring up and all that. It's just like, is it really taking, or the structure these kids go into?
And that's I've been on this earth for 36 years. I've been watching sports since I can remember. Not too much off topic, but just let's talk about a different sport for a minute with the Green Bay Packers. I've always seen the Green Bay Packers be a successful franchise. I've never really seen the Green Bay Packers be a bad team. They made a move a few years back to trade up to go get Jordan Love. One of my friends was like, why would they do? He said, why would they do that? X, Y, and Z. I said, well, this is what the Green Bay Packers do. They have a quarterback, and before their quarterback is done, they find him a replacement. Some type of way, right? So I said it to say that the franchises that have that backbone, that good front office, that have these expectations of winning, they have a way that they do things. They know their player's going to leave. What they do, before they leave, they find somebody else. They have their build. This is why we talk about it all the time about Los Angeles Lakers. Los Angeles Lakers don't rely on having a number one pick. If they see somebody that looks hella good in the NBA, when free agency come around, they're going to find a way to go get him. They're going to open that checkbook and they're going to find a way. Pat Riley's trying to do something very similar in Miami. Obviously, we know where he get it from.
Yeah.
So it's what some of these franchises do. So when we say, like you said, is there a tanking problem? It could be. But some of these teams in their front office, they're just trash. It's not the players. It's the makeup in the in the franchise. We talk about Michael Jordan being one of the greatest players of all time, but him being in the front office of Charlotte was not all that good. That's just facts. So it's how some of these teams, their makeup. They're getting multiple players through the draft. They're getting the good players. They're finding ways to get successful players or players that are good in college and is not panning out. And I don't think it's just the player, in my opinion. I think it's also, as we talk about it, it's about where are you putting these players? How are you putting these players to be successful?
Mm-hmm.
Again, LeBron was just one of a kind, right? He went somewhere where he grew up at. The East was the East. He went to the Eastern Conference, the NBA Finals, played the Spurs, and boom. But then you look at all the other draft picks. What happened? It didn't pan out like that. So you do have that unicorn that can be different, but it's also a partnership in both the player and the franchise. And that's why we remember Eli Manning saying, well, damn, I don't want to go to the San Diego Chargers. I don't want to go there. I want to go somewhere else. This team ain't set up for no success. They're not built to do that. Now, granted, Phillip Rivers had a hell of a career, but he never won a championship. Eli Manning is probably going to go to the Hall of Fame because he beat Tom Brady twice in the Super Bowl. And some stats here or there, but that's going to be the highlight. And the Giants' build played a part with that. So it's just how these franchises, how they build their team. And, of course, we could say tanking, but I'm not going to guarantee, but I'll probably say 90%, if we talk about the same thing next year, Sacramento will still be at the bottom. Washington Wizards. Now, granted, they do got Trae Young and Anthony Davis coming back. That's a little bit of talent over there. But it'd be even more. Well, damn, why are they at the bottom of the East and they got Trae Young, Anthony Davis? Why is that? The build of the franchise. So, to me, I'm agreeing with that because it's just like I've been watching it in different sports. And I always pay attention to what teams are good and what teams are always at the bottom. They're always at the bottom. Why do we find the Detroit Lions, for the most part, always at the bottom of the NFL? They've been pretty solid the past couple of years, but why are they always at the bottom?
Sorry, ass drafted by Matt Millen.
Why are the Raiders always drafting top 5? Why are the Jets always drafting top 5?
Ownership.
This is the norm. This is the norm. Why are we finally seeing the Detroit Pistons look very successful now? But historically, if you look at their build, Isaiah Thomas, Chauncey Billups, these teams that they had that were successful, they had a build. They're getting back to that, that build. But why are the Boston Celtics still consistently one of the better teams in the NBA? And they're missing their best player. So it's the build of how these franchises go. Zion is in a tough situation because he's a young player, but he's also at a team that don't know how to win. And this trickles down to college too.
Yeah.
This definitely trickles down to college. Now, I think money is a little bit more involved now. Obviously, we got NCAA stuff, NIL, X, Y, and Z now. But this trickles down to the same exact thing. You're a big Bama fan, and what happened? Nick Saban came in and righted that he righted everything. Hey, listen, what y'all was doing a couple years ago, that shit ain't work. We got to get back on track. He got everything back in line. So it's the same thing with these teams. And I get you hiring Doug Christie as your coach at Sacramento, but how successful were they there? Yeah, they made the playoffs. Okay, cool. But it's not to that level of we're competing for a championship. And that's why I always say the Lakers are going to find a way to get somebody. They're going to find a way. That's just what they do. Them, the Spurs, very shocking that Chicago is, I think what kind of hurt Chicago's success a little bit is Derrick Rose injury. I think if that doesn't happen, you're probably seeing them a little bit more successful down the road, maybe competing more for Eastern Conference Finals, stuff like that. But, they had the 6 championships with Michael Jordan. They had that build. But to me, what teams are going to be successful. In Sacramento, these teams that are tanking, I don't think this is always done on purpose. It's just this front office, man. This is what they do. You can give them the good players. Their front office is still going to mess it up.
And, we seen what DeRozan, talk about Sacramento here. We seen DeRozan, Zach LaVine in the years in Chicago. They were just mid.
Mm-hmm.
And lucky for them, they were in the East, so they were kind of just a touch above some of these teams. But they always in the play-in. They're like nothing. You weren't past top 5, nothing like that with that group. And you're doing the same thing in Sacramento, and it's not really working. Before we go to our break, Philly. The process, all that stuff.
Right.
Like, look at that situation. Embiid didn't really play for the first couple years. Let's be real about that, ladies and gentlemen. Embiid did not play for the first couple years. He was hurt.
Yep.
And they took big man after big man. Norris Noel, Jaleel Okafor.
Trying to replace, yeah.
And those draft situations did not help none of those guys in their development at all.
Mm-mm.
It really did not. So, yeah, they got lucky with Embiid becoming the player he is. And also getting Ben Simmons motivated for that first part of his career. And they also, getting Jimmy Butler in the mix as well. But it's all about situations and whatnot.
Yep.
The Phoenix Suns, for example, they had to run the lottery that mixed results. Marquise Chris, for a couple other guys, they lucky they hit on Devin Booker, but that's some dudes they drafted. It's like Alex Len. Like the Lakers need big men so bad last year, they took a chance on Alex Len. They couldn't play the motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
How you 7'1" and you can't play solid defense in today's age? Like, how the fuck that happens? Sorry for cussing, but how the hell that happens? Looking at Boston Celtics right now on the TV right here. I got TV going on right here. Despite Jason Tatum not playing, you got Jaylen Brown, but the other guys they built around this squad for the past few years has contributed very well. The coaching, the structure, the front office. So I don't think the NBA has a tanking problem, in my humble opinion. It's just like it's got to be the right situations and the right people to run it. Hell, perfect example. LA Clippers. Back in the day with what's his name on the team? Donald Sterling. And he had Elgin Baylor run that team. And they're like a running joke in professional sports.
Right.
Come on, folks. Y'all know this. The Clippers were like a running joke in the professional sports. I remember just living out in Southern California during those times. You go to Clippers games for cheap. Some of y'all know, y'all see this, y'all live in Southern Cal back in the day, y'all can go to Clipper games for cheap to see your star players. Because they sucked ass.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to see Allen Iverson coming to town, boom, go to a Clipper game. Because the Lakers game was too damn expensive. And they were good that time, too. Vince Carter. Tracy McGrady. If you're a Celtics fan, you're going to come watch your team play. Tim Duncan, you get my point. But look at all the draft picks guys they drafted and didn't really elevate their team. The coaches. Michael Olvin Candy. And then when Don Sterling got something good, his dumb ass messed it all up.
Yep.
And the league's probably happy that happened because look what Steve Ballmer has done with that franchise. Intuit Dome, raised the value of the franchise, all that good stuff. So it just depends how these guys come to these situations. And at the other side of the break, when we talk about these college basketball scores, we'll see, if some of these kids we talk about could help these franchises' future and whatnot. So we're going to take a break. On the other side of things, we're going to go to some of these college basketball scores and kind of tying in the tank and all that stuff. Can some of these kids turn these franchises around? We'll discuss that much more here on Fastback here for Ice Sports Radio. Good for our sports. We'll catch you on the other side.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iSportsRadio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the iSports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop, including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at iSports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in with us here tonight. If some of y'all just got done watching the Lakers, the Celtics beat down the Lakers in Pat Riley's statue ceremony, beat down the Lakers by double digits. I get the score here in a little bit, but they quickly went to the Olympics here from my TV. But the Celtics beat down the Lakers. Really in the contest, once they got that lead going to the halftime, they never let go of that lead. For Boston. So big time win for them on the road. Boston is a team that I think both of us pegged as kind of like still make the playoffs, but kind of like 4th and 5th seed. But now they kind of the Pistons are still number 1, but Boston is just like 6 games out behind them. So that's we real good count mouse who can stay ahead there in the East. But D-Locke, I want to shift the focus here. College basketball recap, February 21st. A lot of good games that happened on the weekend. A lot of games that were jockeying for NCAA positioning. Let me get this out the way. In the world of college basketball. Mm-hmm. Also, what happened in the world of college basketball, let me pull it up here. The committee gave us their top 16 teams. I'll just go through them real quick. In the Midwest region in Chicago, Michigan number 1, Houston number 2, Florida, your Gators number 3, and Virginia, who had a ceremony for Tony Bennett when they played against Miami, which they won against Miami in a very good game. And shout out to Coach Lucas down in Miami, who turned that program around. Did an excellent job with Miami so far this year. Virginia number 4 in the Midwest Regional. In the East, in Washington, D.C., Duke number 1, Illinois number 2, Kansas number 3, warm out them in the second, and Vanderbilt number 4. I think that was the big surprise right there.
Yeah.
In the South, which would be placed out in Houston, Texas, Iowa State number 1, who lost this past weekend. UConn number 2, Nebraska number 3. More surprises this year. Texas Tech number 4, who without JT Thompson, I don't know how far they'll go. And that really sucks for him and them. And out of the West Regional and San Jose, California, Arizona, number 1 seed, Purdue, number 2, Gonzaga, number 3, and Michigan State, number 4. D-Lock, real quick, the top 16 seeds thus far, your thoughts on that real quick.
I think the biggest thing that come to me, and I'm trying to pull it up, is that Vanderbilt, right? I think that was a big surprise to me. Right now, like I said, the SEC, we talk about the SEC being very, very tough, but taking a couple losses in Missouri and Tennessee recently, take on to Oklahoma as well. They've had some key losses in here. They did have a couple key wins, but a few losses didn't have them landing there. But I think this bracket is pretty much set pretty well. Obviously, we had some, like you talked, we had a hell of a good game this past week. Obviously, Duke and Michigan State duking it out this past week. It was a game that was needed. So for me, I think my biggest thing that I talk about when the bracket is it gives those teams that are not expected to go far a little bit more motivation. But also now you have expectations with those teams that do have that number one seed. You do have the expectation to get to that Final Four. So it's crazy how fast the season goes by, man. I mean, like I said, we get into that conference play, and then boom, March Madness is here. So I think it was a good setup in this bracket. Obviously, be looking at what Florida's doing, seeing how they're going to be able to get a chance to repeat if possible. And they're going to be in a tough bracket as well. So, but they've been playing extremely well recently through conference play.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. But we had some hell of a good games. SEC play and conference play, different games. I think Arizona and Houston played. I think this past week, Arizona definitely got that dub on that number 2 Houston team. So for me, this is a very good bracket that we're seeing. And I think the biggest thing about this, we talk about the draft. I think this bracket has a hell of a lot of talent in here. We talk about these different athletes that can possibly go number 1. This tournament is going to determine that top 5, in my opinion. We're gonna see what players can take over from where they are and make big impacts on their team to show that they could be that number 1 draft pick. So I think Duke is a team that is very scary.
Yeah.
I think, we've seen this, and historically we know, like we talked about franchises and universities. Duke is a team to watch out for. I think that they're going to be a team that can shock a lot of people, even though it shouldn't be too shocking. But they're going to be a team that we got to definitely look out for moving forward. We're going to see what Cameron can do with this team moving down through the tournament. So, like I said, I think this was a hell of a bracket. Like I said, I like the rankings. Did get an upset with UCLA and Illinois. I think that's one to take note of as well. But other than that, man, I mean, I'm definitely excited to see when this bracket starts, March Madness, because we got a hell of a lot of talent, and I think we got some good teams.
Just real quick for me, going to this game right here, really good game. Cam Boozer, I almost did myself. Cam Boozer,
yeah,
hell of a game. And when we talk about tanking and stuff like that in the last segment, this is why one of these kids that could challenge for the number 1 spot. Yeah, everybody wants to say Darren Peterson, number 1 overall. And I saw this from a few days ago, BSO, Black Sports Online. He quote tweeted somebody said, like, NBA GMs don't really care how Darren Peterson is acting, all that stuff, how he was, has been doing this year, all that crap. But somebody had a good point, like, and what we talked about this last segment, like, if some of these guys do their job in the front office, you wouldn't have these situations.
Right.
You kind of seeing things unfolding right here in Kansas. And yeah, this kid's talented, but like too many red flags has been flaring up. And then you look at the other side in this game right here that we could see in the Final Four. Let me pull it up. This game here, Boozer, 18 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists. 5 of 7 for a free throw line. 2 blocks. 6 for 10 from the field. You haven't heard any bad stories about him. No red flags. big man that can play inside out. Plays very similar to his father. But a guy that has come in and really elevated this team.
Right.
So, despite the good game from Michigan and Lindborg, who had 21 points in that matchup, like you mentioned, Duke's a scary team. I think, guys like Isaiah Evans, Caleb Foster, they continue their strong play and help along the journey. I think they go a long way for Duke. But Booz has shown throughout this year that, he could be that guy. And I think he's kind of showing that to these leagues and executives, in a kind of small ball NBA, that he could dominate. He could at least be an 18-10 guy for you.
Yeah.
In this league. And at least like 4 or 5 assists to average along.
The thing about it is how again, like we talk about, he's showing you this talent. Now you got to know how to build around it. I mean, now you got to know how to put the pieces around a player like this. LeBron, again, I go back to it. LeBron was a hell of a player, but at some point he knew he wasn't going to win the NBA championship with the team that he had in Cleveland. It wasn't happening. You know what I mean? So you got to be able to put the players around your star player, even when they're younger. I think Dallas got a hell of a pick with Cooper Flagg, right? They got the few pieces around him to help him develop. Not they're hurt. Obviously, they move on from Anthony Davis, but hopefully this is what happened with Cooper Flagg. I'm sorry, not Cooper Flagg. Cam Boozer is, he gets in a situation or a team that is trying to be successful and put him in the right pieces. Because right now, what he's showing us is he's leading Duke. Right now, Duke looks very, very, very good right now. They're looking like the team to be. Obviously, I want my Florida Gators to be that, and they will. But it's the fact that Duke is Duke. We know what they've done. They replace guys and they bring them in all the time. And he's showing that he is the guy for this team this year. So when you see that, now you have to see his game and say, okay, well, damn, this is how he's playing. This is what he's doing to help this team be successful. Now your job as an executive or as a coach or somebody in that front office is to put him in the best position to be successful with your franchise. Now, obviously, it's a hell of a lot easier on the college level. But now, I think, this is going to make that March Madness so much interesting, is because you're going to have the other teams that could be as good. You're going to have the good thing about March Madness that we love is it's only one game, man. There's not a 7-game series. It's not the first to 4. You get up in there, you have a bad game that day, there's a chance that you can get put out. And that's later on that we get through the Elite 8, the Sweet 16, the Final 4. These teams start to catch a groove. You want to make sure that, you have all your stuff done. And right now, Duke is a team that looks very good. Like I said, also, I'm noticing what Florida's doing. Florida's trying to get these wins and stack them up and get that chemistry. Because once you get in this tournament, one game and you're done. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays. But Duke is looking extremely well. They're looking like a team that's going to be hard to compete with.
And they're going to be tough. I think they'll get number 1 seed, depending on what else happens throughout the year. And I think they'll trying to keep them in the East region for the most part. Michigan, depending on how things goes about for the rest of the Big Ten for the rest of the year, because pull up that schedule real quick, who they got left. They got Minnesota this Tuesday, which should be an easy win for them. Then on Friday, they go to Champaign to play Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another strong matchup right there. Then they finish out the season against Iowa, out in Iowa City, and then play Michigan State at home. So you got an Iowa team that's kind of like a bubble team right now that could upset you. So you got at least good 3 strong games to finish out the year in conference play. And you can't really have any hiccups. If you have any hiccups, then you drop it down in the lip and drop it down a seed, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So for Michigan, yeah, you lost, but it's a good loss to have on the resume in a sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But you can't, for the rest of the year, the games that this outline, you can't lose. You especially can't lose to Minnesota. You lose that one, then. But the other 3 games, you got to come out winners on that one.
Yeah, you gotta stack some of these wins. I mean, especially going into it. I mean, like I said, looking at it, I think Vandy's last regular season games March 7th. So you're getting some of these last few games, and it's coming up next couple of weeks. You want to have that resume looking pretty good prior to, and you want to have that chemistry of, all right, this is where we are. We've got, we're kind of peaking and ready to go. So I think, you could take a couple losses, but now you got to get back on and get consistent, because now, again, the March Madness tournament you're going to have to be consistent throughout this tournament.
Let's move forward. You had an upset here. Cincinnati, who's kind of been actually playing pretty well since the coach got challenged down in the hallway saying why the team sucked, and then they went out and win their game. They win 84-68 against Kansas. Let me ask you this. I've been meaning to ask you this. And shout out to Cincinnati. They won the game and whatnot. They've been playing pretty well, since that confrontation,
Mm-hmm.
In the tunnel after West Virginia. They beat UCF 95-72, beat Kansas State 91-62. And by the way, last week I talked about Jerome Tang being fired for Kansas State for calls that just look real suspect, in my opinion. And furthermore, kind of paints Kansas State in a bad light in the sense like, this is why y'all always kind of here, but not here.
Right.
As a athletic department. Despite success y'all had in sports, it's like, y'all here, but y'all. Anyways, they beat Utah 69-65 on February 15th. Then they beat Kansas on the 21st here as well. So nice 4-game win streak for the Bearcats. But I've been meaning to ask you this. Is Derek Pearson still the consensus number 1 overall pick?
Ooh.
He had 17 points in 32 minutes against Cincinnati, 4 rebounds, 1 steal, 1% from 3-point land. It's just, to me, it's just like the injury things going on with him.
Mm-hmm.
I guess not being a team player in people's eyes. And the reason I bring this up is because as this season has gone along, guys like Keaton Ragler from Illinois, a guy that get too many big-time offers, has really kind of played himself to a lottery position.
Right.
Darius Acuff, who went for a career high against Alabama last week in double overtime, has really
came out.
Like, he's been playing well all year, but that game right there, that really put a statement out there for his name. There's other kids I could bring up right now. It's just like everybody's so stuck on Peterson be that number 1 guy. So to you, do you think Peterson is still a number 1 overall pick, or you got somebody else in mind, or people in mind?
I mean, I think for me, I'm really liking what Peterson is a hell of a player, but I think you have AJ DeBoston is playing extremely well, and Cam Boozer. I mean, right now what they're doing is extremely impressive. I mean, I remember watching AJ DeBoston on ESPN commit to BYU. My first thought process is, why the hell is he going there? But he's stepping up and doing a hell of a job right now. The past couple of games, I put Cam Boozer in there because he's playing well. But not only is he playing well, he's playing well with all the pressure that he has. For one, his dad is Carlos Boozer, and two, he's at Duke University. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He's at a school where they're known to have, this is the expectation. We talked about it before about having the expectations, and he's standing up and he's doing his job with it. So he can withhold all of that. I'm pretty sure these NBA teams are looking like, well, damn, okay, this is a young kid who knows what it is, and he's making a diamond out of all this pressure, right? He's doing his job. So I think Peterson is still considered top 5, top 2, top 3. But there are others that's coming in there that's making a case. Just a few guys. But I think what's going to make that huge, huge difference also is what happens during March Madness. We're going to see who can show that this team goes as far as I take them. Right? You got to show that you can take this team this far. And for those 2 or 3 guys, I think they're very, very good players. And it's also about what the team needs, right? Talk about Sacramento, Utah. What are their needs at this point? But I think Peterson is playing well, but there are others. And that's why this draft is so loaded as it is. This draft has a lot of talent, a lot of talent. I'm at a point now where I'm just glad that the Magic got Banchero and the few pieces that we had, so we're not trying to try to start over and find talent in this draft, right? You got your franchise player. Let's sign them and keep them, extend them. In this draft, you got some pieces, man. So now it's gonna be a tough decision, that number 1 overall pick. Not like it was with Victor, but we knew Spurs get number 1 pick without a doubt. I don't think that this is a draft where we see the number 1 pick would be without a doubt.
To me, it's just like, too many other kids, I'm not saying they got his talent level or whatever, but it's just like, too many kids that has been playing very good to kind of challenge that. Richard Boozer always kind of been in contention for one of those top 3 picks. AJ DeMista. This is kind of reason why I wish Alabama pony up the money to get him to come to Alabama. Mm-hmm. Look how he's playing. They beat Iowa State 79-69 this past Saturday. He almost had a triple-double. And you talking about like a 6'9" wing who's playing like a very high up-tempo offense out in Provo. So, and this is after the kid Richie Saunders went out with injury. So more so, you mentioned about March Madness, all that stuff, and mentioned about Richie Saunders going out with ACL. Mm-hmm. With Richie Saunders out the way, we're going to see if AJ can be that dude. If he can show you be that dude for the rest of the year, mm-hmm. And with games coming up against UCF, West Virginia, Cincinnati, and Texas Tech to close out the year. If he still has strong performances for the rest of the season, conference tournament, and then the NCAA tournament, there'll be real talks about who will be number 1 overall pick.
Yep.
Like Marcus, saying, I think a kid from BYU. There's going to be real discussions. I'm pretty sure there's real discussions going on right now. Darren Peterson is not like a lock for number 1 overall pick.
No.
I'm sorry. I think that I've seen mock drafts. I've seen they still peg him number 1. It's like, I don't know, like Boozer, Demista, Keaton Wagler, Darius Acuff, at kind of entering that conversation for top 5. And who you got in that order is up to everybody's, choice and desire.
Yeah.
He's the top scorer in the country, and talking about AJ Demista. PJ Haggerty, number 3 in the country. Another guard. Boozer's number 5 and 22.6 points per game. Peterson's ain't. I'm looking. He's not in top 20. Not saying not a bad thing, but going down the list and whatnot, the Wilson kid from North Carolina, that's another person in consideration right there. So, like all these names we just named out, ladies and gentlemen, like Peterson names keep on coming out like a red flag, and everybody else is kind of like, we're doing our thing.
Mm-hmm.
So for Kansas, and Bill Self has been really protective of this kid. He ain't saying too much. And I'm real curious to see, what the stories come out, once the season concludes for Kansas and whatnot, and come to draft time, all that, which we'll probably talk on the show. But it only takes one team not to, to bypass all that.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is a good problem to have.
Let's see. I think we lost D-Locke. Let's see. Yeah, I think we lost him there for a second. Let's see. Well, I'll give another second here, but to me, to kind of talk about this, the kids I mentioned, yeah, I think we lost them. The kids we mentioned and whatnot, it's like, Acuff, Ragler, and others. Okay, here we go. All right.
Okay. Yeah, my computer died on me. What was I? Oh, so yeah, you got these guys that can make a big impact. It's multiple options, and that's a good thing. That's a great thing for the NBA teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those that they're gonna go through the draft and they're gonna go through the lottery and be like, damn, like, yes, we wanted that number 1, but we're fine with number 2, right? That's a hell of a position to be in. But we're fine with 3. We're fine with 4. Now, if you do get 2 or if you get 3, now you say, well, does this fit me or my franchise, or do I trade back, right? A lot of different situations could happen with so much talent in this draft. That's a very, very, very good thing. And it's a hell of a lot of talent. It's just now,
I think we're gonna see a lot more moves during this draft. Teams moving up, teams moving back. Maybe we do see some players that possibly get moved because there's so much talent that we could see a team that say, "Hey, well, you know what? We are one player away. Let's try to move up and go grab Peterson, Booker, or somebody." So it's a very good problem to have, rather than you knowing for a fact who's gonna go number one.
And it's very curious how things gonna go. You know, and the guys we just named out, and the guys we have not, named as well. A lot of guys. I mean, a lot of talent right there. Like we alluded to earlier in the show. You know, can you put these guys in the right situation and elevate them to their best talents? North Carolina here, they won 77-64. They went up in Syracuse. I do wonder if coach of Syracuse name, Dwayne Autry, will he survive after this year?
Mm-hmm.
Does he got these kids best in the situation? It's just been real weird for the Orange, and a lot of hype coming to the season with Kai and Anthony getting there, and then things, especially down the conference play, they have kind of look different with them compared to the beginning of the year. This game here, like we just alluded to, AJ almost had a triple-double. Big time win for them against Iowa State. And then you mentioned this one here. Illinois looked very, very good, and was going to take advantage of UCLA and the issues they've been having the past week. Mick Cronin being the douche that he is, and then they came back and win and threw there at one point in LA. So it's all about situations and whatnot.
Yeah.
And can team thrive in those situations? And on a side note, I don't know what UCLA is going to do with Mick Cronin, but it depends how the rest of the year goes. But if they get pulled out early in the conference tournament or something like that, I say toss them. I don't say just toss them, because I think you got to get somebody who, I'm not say be a cookie cutter, but just somebody that can jive. Mick Cronin, he's a fine basketball coach, but he's not a people person per se.
Right.
He can coach basketball. I ain't taking that away from him. But sometimes you got to be able to jive with your players. And I don't think he's that type of dude. If you're UCLA in this
got some decisions you got to make,
and you're in the tough ass conference where teams like Michigan, Purdue, Illinois, I think Indiana's gonna be in the upswing come next year. Michigan State. That's at least 5 teams out of this name right there. And then we'll see what happens with some of these other schools, especially out west. Washington, they suck. Dana Altman, Oregon. They may give him one more year, but it won't surprise me if they let him go. Most of them just got to USC, so I don't see a change happening there. But that's the thing, kind of keep an eye on. You don't want the crosstown rivals kind of getting better, and then you kind of deal with him as well. And Minnesota probably make a change again and whatnot. In Nebraska, they're rolling.
right?
Took them some years. And a person who used to live out there, they were kind of mid while I was out there. And they did not have the best reputation of getting the best talent in the state while I was out there. But it seems like things on the upswing there now. just full disclosure, folks, when I lived out there, guys I went to high school with who were all-state type of players there, played with for all that stuff, they got looks from Nebraska, but they really didn't. Extend, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And you talking about school I was at, we're always in the national conversation as one of the top teams in the country. But they never really, they always recruited outside the state. And you kind of wonder why they always in the rut, especially in the Big 12, because they look elsewhere. And you have championship winning teams, players in the state. Matt Hill, who I don't know if he still works for the Orlando Magic or not in the front office, but he played at Texas, that same recruiting class with Kevin Durant. Let him go out of state.
Mm.
Just using him for example. So, people kind of thought, Nebraska got talent. I'm glad Hoiberg kind of got things turned around and whatnot. I know NIL and transfer portal help with that type of stuff, but I think, to me, just personal experience, Nebraska could have been a lot better years before we got to this point, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you see with some of these schools, with certain sports, they kind of shoot themselves how they go about operating things.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what I realized over time is how you put your team together is the determination of a lot of stuff. If you invest into a lot, if you put your team together, and you have different ways that you can do it, right? It's just being consistent with that. That's what I talk about with the NBA teams having their way of doing things.
Mm-hmm.
How they put their team together.
Mm-hmm.
And some teams don't have the consistency of doing it. Now, again, we talk about the Chicago Bulls. They drafted Michael Jordan. They got some pieces around them. Rest is history. They go get Derrick Rose. They put some pieces around him. He gets hurt. And now it's like, well, what do we do? Ever since then, they've been in the shithole ever since. So, and it happens. Injuries happen. But again, you look at Duke, prime example. They got their player, they leave, they replace him. These
Shy
teams,
got nice players coming in next year too.
It's always a revolving door, right? This is the norm for a lot of these teams, which some teams may, and it's, to be honest with you, it should be hell of a lot easier now for NCAA just because of NIL deal, the transfer portal. These are the things that they can do now, right? So you can find a way to, if Cam Boozer decides to leave, you can go find another piece for sure in the transfer portal, without question. So this is something that is the norm, and what happens is it trickles down to the coaches, right? Now these coaches have to be able to perform and get these guys ready. Pittsburgh, University of Pittsburgh, we have a hell of this roster is a bought roster. So if it's a bought roster, how come we're not as successful as we should be with this bought roster? And that's at any school.
Mm-hmm.
Big time schools. Once they invest that money, they want to see, okay, well, hell, we've invested. Now we want to see this team be successful. It's not the athletes because you got who you wanted. So now, you know what I mean? And that's just where things are now of, hey, this is what where we are in college, in just in sports in general. You got to be able to say, hey, I put this team together. Now I got to coach them. So and we'll see. I personally feel like the good teams are not going to drop off. They can either get better or be consistent. It's just more of an even playing field, if you will. It's a selling point, right? But the history of these these universities, is going to play a huge difference. Duke is known for having guys go first in the first round. Why would you not want to come here? That's going to be a selling point. So this is something that has to continue. That's going to make an impact in the NCAA, in universities, is how you put your team together to be consistent.
So it's gonna be real curious to see the next couple weeks how everything shakes out. Who gonna rise to the top? Who stays on top? And who can finish out strong the rest of the year? Who can elevate their draft stock and whatnot? So, and we'll see, which teams on this bubble, coaches on the bubble, who's coaching for their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So the next couple of weeks is going to be very telling. Look at the Big Ten standings right now. For example, Rutgers, Maryland, who just got buzzed with, so that change ain't going to happen. Northwestern, Oregon, like I alluded to, Penn State, at the very bottom. Skip over to the SEC. South Carolina, Ole Miss, LSU at the bottom. Oklahoma. I think 3 of those things I just named down will probably be making changes in the offseason. Stephen Pearl, first year, he'll probably get a pass. Mark Pope, probably get another year. So a lot of structure and a lot of doggy dog right now, like you look to by NNL and transfer portal. We're going to stay on top, recruiting, all that stuff. So this next couple weeks here, it's going to be very fun and interesting who's going to stay on top, who's going to fall, and whatnot. All that good stuff. But this has been our show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in with us here on Fast Break here for High Sports Radio. D-Lock, where can people find your social media?
In fact, guys, find me at Black-813. My Gators are trying to get things cooking, so I definitely talk more about them. Let them know they can find you in the show's page.
You can find the show's page at Fast Break at IESR. That's Fast Break at IESR on X. And I know we've been having X issues for the show stream, so I don't know what's going on with that either StreamYard or X. I'm sorry about that. Because we getting like nice, good people on X, so I don't know what's going on with that. Hopefully it gets fixed here soon. But in the meantime, follow us on shows account Fast Break IESR. Follow me on Twitter, Spawn4288 or X. We will dub it right there as well. And then also do follow Ice Sports Radio on all your social media feeds: X, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Every time we go live every Sunday, you get that notification. If you see our lovely faces going live with y'all for every Sunday to talk about the world of basketball. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, we'll talk to y'all next week. The NBA's winding down and college basketball winding down as well. So we'll talk to y'all later.